I felt like that was a catch. As we all seen, I had both feet in bounds, both feet touchdown. Still had the ball in my hand. Stepped out of bounds, still had the ball in my hand. Then the DB, he made a great play, great lasting effort. But it is what it is. It happens. I just got to keep control of the ball all the way down to the ground now. So we'll learn from it. But it was an amazing play by the DB.
Welcome onto the sideline, everybody. Matt Dowell and Jared Parker with you from the literal sideline of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This is cool. We've done remote episodes in the past, but this, I feel like, Jared, is our first true remote episode because we're here in Atlanta. Of course, game one of South Carolina football season is in the books, and they have won 24-11 over Virginia Tech. This place was electric, and I'm so excited that we get to do a podcast episode from this huge arena, this huge stadium, and a beautiful stadium. Jared, I don't know about you, I had a great time tonight.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved being here. This is my second time at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It is everything that it's hyped up to be. I mean, it's a massive stadium. It's a beautiful stadium. I like being indoors because we're gonna go through weather, all types of weather this season. So it's nice having at least 1 week where, you're indoors, you're not worried about anything except football.
Except football, and that is all that mattered today for South Carolina. It was an interesting game, and we're going to get into everything here on today's episode. But first, just want to give a shout out to Gamecock Nation because I wasn't really sure, what the vibe would be like because it's a huge stadium. It's an NFL stadium. I knew Gamecock Nation would turn out. I just didn't know how much. I didn't know how much Virginia Tech was going to show out. But holy moly, I mean, it was packed. It was electric. The atmosphere was amazing. And Jared, you were on the sideline this entire game today. So Jared he shot this game on film for our TV station, and you got to see all of the emotions. You got to see all of these plays up close and personal. You got to feel the atmosphere. What can you tell people about what you noticed being on the sideline next to these players and coaches today?
Well, those third downs, I mean, you gave a shout out to Gamecock Nation. On third down, we heard the Gamecocks. Every Virginia Tech third down, South Carolina fans were loud. They were proud. They made it hard. We saw in the first half, Kyron Jones had to call a timeout because things weren't working. I saw him pointing to his helmet. So the South Carolina fans, for what is, as we mentioned, a big stadium, they really did a good job of making themselves feel loud. And I heard all of it as much as Jones was hearing it on the sideline.
I thought it was a fantastic atmosphere, and shout out to Virginia Tech because they came out in really good numbers as well. I do think it was a pro Gamecock crowd in this one, but still, it was electric from the very beginning until the very end. So let's get into all of the X's and O's of this game. There is a lot to talk about, a lot of storylines, and we'll let you guys hear from Shanebeamer, Nyck Harbor, and LaNorris Sellers here in just a bit. But let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is week one. There are going to be kinks. There's going to be rust. Nobody's going to play perfect in this first week, and I think you have to be realistic about that no matter what team you root for. I do want to say, though, in our prediction, in our preview show, I did predict that South Carolina would win this game 24-14, so I just needed Virginia Tech to get a field goal there at the end to be perfect, but I'll take the 24-11. I thought that was a pretty good pick. But this game, Jared, was interesting because it started off with a bang with LaNorris Sellers' touchdown, and then a lot of kind of messiness happened afterwards, and then it ended with a bang with that 80-yard return and then that 64-yard touchdown pass between LaNorris Sellers and Nyck Harbor. But anyway, let's talk about the good first, all right? Let's talk about what we thought went well. Jared, what stood out to you as something that the Gamecocks did well right from the jump here today?
Well, I've got to go with defense. Obviously, Virginia Tech put up 11 points. 2 of those points weren't even on the defense. That came from a safety. So allowing a power conference opponent to only put up 3 field goals as a defense, force a turnover, get to the quarterback. I know Travian, he's back at home, the D-line coach. I know he's got to be proud of his guys on the D-line. And overall, as a defense, they really showed out in Atlanta.
I thought it was great. I thought the vibes were really good. I thought the mental toughness of this team, and Shanebeamer talked about it afterwards, I thought everyone looked really calm. I never really got a sense of panic from South Carolina today, and I don't know if that would have been true in years past, but they felt like a team that had leadership and that was like, just trying to figure it out and work it out. And I thought that was a big positive. I'm with you though. I thought the D-line especially looked fantastic in this game. And then I thought LaNorris looked good for the large chunk of this game. The offense as a whole struggled in the middle of this game. So let's get into what we thought were some of the things that were just kind of in this week one. Jared, for me, on the defensive side, the D-line was great. I thought the secondary got exposed a little bit in parts from Miami's offense today, but I do think those are things that can be corrected as the season goes on. But the glaring issue for South Carolina in this first game was the offensive line. I mean, Virginia Tech had 4 sacks. LaNorris was under pressure a lot, and frankly, if there was one thing about South Carolina that just didn't look good in this game, it was the O-line.
Yeah, I think LaNorris did a great job in the second half adjusting to that. You saw him getting touched a lot less, and if he was getting touched, it was on his terms. He was meeting you with just as much force or evasiveness, but it definitely was a struggle point in that first half, and I think it's what really contributed to, the first drive they came out, scored with a bang, like you said, but the slow start through the rest of that first half, I think it really started with the O-line, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so we'll see. I mean, I really think the O-line has been a problem for a few years now. So we'll see if ShaneBeamer and his staff can correct the O-line. A lot of new players in that position as well. They lost a lot of guys from last season. So, it is week one. You want to see how everyone is adjusting. They're going to learn. They're going to try and get better, and they have what we all think is going to be a Heisman, candidate as a QB. So they got to protect him and they got to make sure he stays healthy. So I think that's going to be a big emphasis as we go into week 2. Now let's talk about the intangibles of this game, because it was a special atmosphere here in Atlanta. Frank and Cheryl Beamer were here. They were honored before the game. Of course, the family tree of connections that this game had between Virginia Tech and South Carolina was pretty cool. Frank Beamer led the entire stadium in a prayer before the game, so it was just a really cool vibe. And Shane Beamer talked about that it was emotional for him, that it's his alma mater, it's where his whole family has so many memories. He wouldn't be human if he's not a robot. He can't just put all those emotions away. But obviously, he said he made sure his team knew that it was I'm all in for us. It is about winning this game. It is about winning for South Carolina today. It's not about Virginia Tech. It's just about how was he dealing with those emotions. And he said, he thought about it. He felt those emotions. And I thought, I think it's a very normal and a very natural thing, especially when it comes to his parents being in the house.
Yeah, I know. It's something he talked about leading up to this game. He mentioned it. He said he was kind of ready for it to pass because he was tired of talking about it. But one thing about being on the sideline, you see the emotions. Like, for example, when J.R. Johnson had that pick, Beamer was hyped on the sideline. When Nyck Harbor on a punt coverage in the gunner slot runs down the punt returner, makes a tackle right behind us, right over here, and Beamer is right in his face, hyped up. Things like that type of hype, that type of energy, you can't replicate it, you can't fake it. So as much as he tried to put it aside, you saw it in every bit of its glory.
All Beamer knows is he's happy South Carolina won 24-11. He's happy it's over, but here's what he had to say about all the emotions he was feeling, especially once he got to the stadium today.
Certainly really emotional for me. I'd be lying to you if I told you this one wasn't extra special. I was doing pretty good with my emotions till we got here and did the walk, and I saw my parents at the end of it, so that one certainly got me on that one. And first games are tough, but this one's extra tough just because of the unknown with Virginia Tech, with their new coordinators, the emotions of the game, all that as well. Just really, really proud of our players and the way they continued to battle throughout, and really cool to see us finish the game the way we did.
One thing, Jared, I was really impressed with was the mental toughness of South Carolina, especially as they entered the fourth quarter, because it was 10-8. Week one might get a little messy. It's a neutral site. You kind of wonder, okay, is South Carolina going to be able to pull this out, or are they going to be, having a heartbreak in week one and having to, adjust and regroup after this? It was one of those, you couldn't really tell how it was going to go. You knew somebody, though, was going to break free, whether it was Virginia Tech or South Carolina. Somebody was bound to have a big moment, and it was South Carolina in that fourth quarter with that 80-yard touchdown return, with that 64-yard bomb from Sellers to Harbor. And so I was really impressed with how they handled that fourth quarter. What did you see here on the sideline from South Carolina in that fourth quarter especially?
I mean, it's like you said, I really saw it as an ability to correct mistakes because if you remember, obviously Vakari Swain had that big 80-yard punt return touchdown, but he actually got benched from punt returning earlier in the game because he dropped the punt. Yep. He recovered it, but Jalen Kilgore ended up coming in and catching the next couple of punts before Swain got put back in. So it was an ability of Swain to, all right, first correct the mistake, secure the punt, but then capitalize on the mistake that Virginia Tech made and allow him to return that because they did have a penalty before and Beamer made them kick again. And then same thing with Nyck Harbor and his big touchdown. He had a big opportunity in the first quarter, which could have been a big play, maybe a touchdown, at least set up a scoring play, and he dropped the ball. That second time around, he made sure he wasn't dropping it.
He made sure, and I really do think that that was a big moment for LaNorris Sellers and Nyck Harbor because, you know, they had the controversial catch that earlier in the game, and I think that was a moment to be like, all right, they kind of got their lick back in a way, and then I really think they set the tone for what they can do going forward this season. And by the way, before we hear about the toughness of this team, let's hear from Nyck Harbor about what he had to say about the catch and his perspective, because Shane Beamer actually said he understood and he got why the officials ruled it the way they did. But here's what Nyck Harbor had to say about his thoughts on that catch in the first half, and then later on what he was able to do in the fourth.
I felt like that was a catch. As we all seen, I had both feet in bounds, both feet touchdown, still had the ball in my hand, stepped out of bounds, still had the ball in my hand. Then the DB, he made a great play, great lasting effort, but it is what it is. It happens. I just got to keep control of the ball all the way down to the ground now, so we'll learn from it, but it was an amazing play by the DB.
And so Nyck Harbor, a huge part of that fourth quarter. And again, we talked about the toughness. Here's what Shane Beamer and LaNorris Sellers had to say about how this team was able to really run away with this in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so good. And I just told them that in the locker room. I mean, that's it's a heck of a win. It really is. To have some guys that were down with some injuries, to be in an environment like this against a team that returned a lot off last year's team, meaning Virginia Tech, that had this game circled on their calendar. Like, I've been in their shoes. It was basically us the entire offseason of 2024, where everybody's telling them how much they stink and they're not going to be very good. They watched College Game Day yesterday. They saw everybody on the game day set pick South Carolina to win big, and we knew it was going to be a battle. Or I did. I hope everybody else on our team did, but knew it was going to be a battle. And we talked about it, meeting with kind of our leadership group earlier in the week. We gave them some scenarios. It's an old, Michael Phelps, the swimmer, talked about, he used to think about before races, he would do the race in his head, how you want it to go, how it could go, or how it should go, how it could go, and how you don't want it to go. And I met with a lot of the leaders on our team earlier this week, and we talked about that. And one of the things that we said it could go is it's ugly for a while, and we got to just kind of hang in there and push through the adversity and stay close and stay together and get it to the second half, and we'll be okay. And I told them at halftime it's what we talked about earlier in the week. So really proud of their mental and physical toughness to hang in there and just keep getting stronger.
We've been stapling our offense pretty much. We just like it. It just has answers for pretty much everything. So it's kind of like all we've been banking on, hey, we don't know what they're coming out and do, but it's a good play. It has answers for everything. So, when we got it, safety came down, we just knew we had it.
We're going to end today's episode, our first true remote episode, with our players of the game. The Gamecocks, we felt, really stood out in this game in particular. And what a game it was to start the season. Jared, I'll let you go first. Who's your player of the game for South Carolina?
So I've got to go Vakari Swain. Just his ability to bounce back from that muff punt. He also had a pass interference earlier in the game. So his ability to fight through adversity, that's what we've been talking about all day, just really impressed me. And in a 10-8 game, late in the game, they needed that spark. They needed that Beamer ball, and Swain stepped up, and it wasn't an easy punt return. He got beat and battered and bruised, but he found a way across the goal line, and that was the game-changing moment today.
It was also just, this place I thought was going to erupt when he had that return. It was just incredible. My player of the game is going to go to Fred J.R. Johnson, who had 10 total tackles in this game, including that interception early on in this one, and leading the Gamecock defense with those numbers. And I think he's a player maybe nobody was talking about going into week one. And we were wondering, with South Carolina losing all of those players to the NFL, there's going to be some names that pop up throughout the season that are going to become stars in the way that some of the guys from last year did. So could Fred J.R. Johnson be that guy? Today I thought was a big game for him, and I'm excited to see what he does going forward. Let's give our final thoughts for you guys now as we look ahead to South Carolina's home opener on Saturday. They take on SC State. Chennis Berry and the Bulldogs, who actually played in the Celebration Bowl here in last season. Jared, they beat Wofford in their week 1 game, which is not an easy game for them, so they got the win. They're going to come into Williams-Brice Stadium with some confidence.
Yeah, I mean, they've got an O to defend. They scored with 1:27 seconds left, so they've got some swag with that team going into week 2. And, you know, obviously it's FCS versus FBS, but just knowing who Chennis Berry is and knowing that Bulldog team, they are not coming into this game. They've got a lot of Columbia kids too. They're not coming into this game to lose. They're coming back to Columbia, a lot of them, and they want to put on a show in front of their fans and their families. So I wouldn't sleep on the Bulldogs, you know, making it tough for at least a half.
Yeah, I think SC State is for real, and I think that's not a team you can just gloss over. When you win a lot, that bleeds over,
Yes.
you know, so they have confidence, not just from last season, but also from this week 1 win for them. So it's going to be fun. That game is on Saturday at 7 o'clock at Williams-Brice Stadium, a night game. South Carolina is going to be the big favorite, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what SC State brings to the table because I do think they have a lot of talent. Jared, is there anything else you want to say as we wrap up our first remote episode of the Gamecock football season?
Man, I'm excited to be here. We're finally here. We've been talking about football season for so long. It's here. We're here. The Gamecocks won, so it's fun. Always fun covering a win.
Always fun covering a win. I also want to give a shout out to the staff here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium because everyone here has just been phenomenal. I mean, it was run like a a professional football team, and that's because they all, you know, work in a professional stadium, but they were all so nice, so professional, so welcoming. The food was exquisite. Shout out to the food. We had a great time here, and it was really a very welcoming environment, a very positive environment, and I was just so impressed. I've been to a lot of stadiums in my career. I was really impressed with how this entire Aflac kickoff game was run.
Yeah, as I said, Mercedes-Benz is one of my favorites. I want to come back here as a fan. I've got to experience this as a fan, though. They just have so many experiences in that sense. So being on the sidelines is fun, but I think may need to come back maybe for a Falcons game. Who knows?
Who knows? Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. He's Jared Parker. I'm Matt Dowell. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, follow. Leave us your thoughts on the biggest storylines of this game. What stood out to you? And give us your predictions for SC State on Saturday. Again, that kickoff is at 7 o'clock at Williams-Brice Stadium, and we will be there for that. Our next episode is going to be on Thursday, and it will be a game day preview of South Carolina and SC State. That episode is released on Thursday. Thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us here on the sideline at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We'll see you on Thursday.